Welcome to today's Healthline webinar from the American Association of Kidney Patients, titled The Targeted Pro and Prebiotic for Kidney Health Supplement Renadyl, an AAKP Healthline Innovator webinar sponsored by Kibow Biotech. My name is Erin Kale. I am Director of Patient Insights, Data Analytics, and Advocacy for AAKP. AAKP's Healthline webinars fall under our Center for Patient Research and Education. We believe patient and caregiver education is an integral part of treatment and protection of patient lives, and we work to ensure that the patient has a central role in research and guidance that are designed to determine optimal approaches and strategies for providing healthcare services, assistance programs, and access to new products and services. We built this center with the latest polling and engagement technologies to ensure that kidney patients take a central role in informing the federal, academic, and private sector research, shaping the next generation of healthcare services, assistance programs, and innovative new treatments. We encourage you to respond to our flash surveys and other engagement opportunities. We are pleased to launch our Innovator webinar series, an extension of our normal Healthline webinar programming. The content of this program as presented and financial support of this webinar was provided by Kibow Biotech. As the oldest and largest patient-led kidney patient organization in the U.S., AAKP is proud to host this Innovator webinar as a service to the expanding national and global communities of patient consumers and their families, medical practitioners, researchers, and policymakers following innovation and advancement in kidney care and treatment. AAKP is an aggressive supporter of innovation to change status quo care. While this activity is an improved educational webinar, AAKP does not endorse this webinar nor endorse or promote any specific commercial entities or products. Thank you again to Kibow Biotech for sponsoring this webinar. With that, let's get started. I'd like to introduce our guest speakers, Steve Drehobel, Usha Vyas, and Dr. Emmanuel Antilles. Steve Drehobel is a Senior Marketing Associate at Kibow Biotech. In this role, he coordinates a team of social media influencers across multiple platforms, fields questions from the public, and helps to set marketing strategies for the company. For nearly 10 years, Steve has worked in the field of communications with an emphasis on documentary filmmaking and science communication. As a writer and editor, he seeks to convey scientific and medical concepts to a general audience concisely and in easily understood terms. He earned his master's degree in scientific writing at Temple University in Philadelphia in 2022. Usha Vyas is a senior microbiologist at Kibow Biotech. She earned her master's degree in microbiology from India and received 2 gold medals for standing first in the university in chemistry at the undergraduate level. Her career as a microbiologist began with Alembic Limited, a generic pharmaceutical company in India working in the fermentation R&D labs with industrial bacteria, which produce important drugs like erythromycin, tacrolimus, lovastatin, and penicillin. During her 22-year tenure with Alembic, she published 2 patents. In her capacity as a manager and head scientist, she worked with cross-functional teams and groups from R&D to manufacturing, quality control, and marketing, and she was the head of the fermentation labs. Her present work at Kibow involves R&D of new probiotic formulations for various applications. She oversees quality control for current products, and she manages lab operations. For more than 10 years now, Usha has been a sought-after speaker at various forums for renal dietitians, nephrology nurses, and other healthcare professionals, educating them on the concept and importance of probiotics in health, disease, and modulation of the gut microbiome. She is now in the final phase of her PhD in molecular biology and biotechnology. We are pleased We have one additional speaker, Dr. Emmanuel Antillier, who is the Clinical Medical Director of Kibow Biotech, and he is responsible for planning, monitoring, and coordinating, as well as project management of all clinical trials sponsored by or in collaboration with Kibow. Dr. Antillier is also a member of the Scientific Advisory Board and a subject matter expert in the clinical development program, regulatory, and pharmacovigilance of Kibow Biotech pipeline products. Dr. Antillier has been an internal medicine physician and nephrologist for over 29 years with vast experience in clinical research, clinical medical practice, and coordinated training and teaching of undergraduate and graduate programs. Dr. Antillier has over a decade of academic, administrative, and professional experience as an adjunct professor, institutional chair, and director of graduate medical education for the West African College of Physicians and Royal College of Physicians of London for board certification in internal medicine and nephrology. Dr. Antillier was a principal investigator of the pilot study on probiotic dietary supplementation for promoting healthy kidney function in patients with CKD 3 to 4, sponsored by Kibow. Dr. Antillier earned his MD in Nigeria and was board certified in internal medicine and nephrology by the West African College of Physicians. He has over 26 published articles in biomedical journals and has presented papers, given talks at various scientific meetings, and volunteered in many community health promotion programs. We are so pleased to have everyone here today, and I now turn things over to Steve to start the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, we are going to be speaking about enteric dialysis, otherwise known as intestinal dialysis. Ever since our company was founded 25 years ago, we have been focused on treating not only the symptoms of chronic kidney disease, CKD, but also treating the root causes. And so in providing an intervention that deals with the cause, we hope to arrest the development of chronic kidney disease and thus also delay the need for traditional hemo and peritoneal dialysis. So as you can see from this representation, our company has grown considerably in the last 25 years, starting out initially as a one-man operation in 1997 in a small 300 square foot office at the University Science Center, until finally reaching our current location in 2012, which houses our state-of-the-art lab, as our company founder, Dr. Rangan, likes to call it our $1 million lab, which has helped us greatly in the development of this new technology. When we first got into this business, there was a massive unmet need for products within the kidney disease space. When you look at the top 10 leading causes of death in the US, kidney disease ranks somewhere near the bottom. It's number 9. However, this visualization misses a huge aspect of it, which is kidney disease is the most expensive to treat out of all of them. In addition to its expense, it's also a secondary illness. So it often comes along with heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and type 2 diabetes. And so in that way, the health effects often compound. And so that also leads to it being a little bit lower on the list than it would be otherwise. After all, it does have something close to, I believe, a 10% prevalence worldwide, a massive prevalence of CKD of all stages among the global population. In order to deal with this massive unmet need, we sought to create a product that would fill that gap, that is both effective and inexpensive, while also being convenient, while not needing to involve a large financial and time burden for patients as well. In developing this product, we sought to target multiple different populations of patients with chronic kidney disease, including pre-dialysis patients, patients with CKD stage 3 and 4, patients in end-stage renal disease, patients awaiting kidney transplant, patients in palliative care, patients on dialysis, as well as pediatric populations, which are often overlooked. our current business operations, we have a very profitable dietary supplement company with a rapidly increasing revenue stream, which already has 2 products on the market that are utilizing this enteric dialysis technology. One for veterinary usage, our product Renadyl, which is distributed in partnership with Renadyl, a French company that specializes in veterinary supplements, and our human kidney supplement Renadyl, which launched 4 years later in 2010. What do we know about the nutraceutical market? So nutraceuticals, it's a massive market representing about $140 billion worldwide, and it's continually expanding. Part of the reason for this is when patients look at a bottle of a traditional pharmaceutical drug, they see a long list in some cases of adverse effects, and they think to themselves, oh, I don't know if I want to take this. When you compare that with probiotics, well, probiotics are generally regarded as safe by the US FDA. The only known side effects of probiotics is just a slight amount of bloating and gastric distress for the initial period after you start taking the probiotic, as your body, as your gut acclimates to the new symbiosis that is developing within your body. So what do we have now, 25 years later? We have multiple products on the market that address the modulation of the gut microbiome using symbiotics, that's both probiotics and prebiotics used in tandem to address organ-specific health problems, in this case, specifically kidney diseases. How we got there? We got there through our pharmaceutical grade validation of strength, quality, purity, and efficacy of our products. And that way that we can ensure for our customers that our products are up to the standard that is needed to be effective for them. And at the end, we have at the present date, we have 33 patents issued, 8 currently pending, and 5 trademarks issued globally. So early on in our company's history, 2 years after the company's founding, Dr. Ranganathan, our founder, he attended a symposium at the International Society of Artificial Internal Organs in Edinburgh with the title of "Will the Bowel Be the Kidney of the Future?" So 2 years in, and he was already putting those ideas out there to be understood by the community. And I think that really shows this unique sense of purpose and vision, which has gotten us this far, has gotten us on 25 years, and I hope will help be a guiding light for us throughout as we continue to bring probiotic interventions to the fore moving forward. So here's just a brief timeline of where we've been, and just going through it very quickly. So as you can see, we began with our veterinary supplement and then moved into human supplements with our Renadyl. We've also, in 2015, brought to market the prebiotic multi-fiber supplement Kibow Fortis. Now Fortis is it's quite unique on the market because when compared with the common fiber supplements, that is your typical Metamucil, Benefiber, Citrusal, Kibow Fortis is a multi-fiber, whereas all those are single fibers and bulk fibers. Whereas Fortis is a multi-fiber and is comprised of functional fibers. And so your microbiome is a very diverse place with many different microbes that all perform different purposes and different functions that help your body to stay healthy, to regulate your body's health. And so it's important for each of those different species of microbe to have the food that it needs to thrive, and not only survive but also thrive. What's also remarkable about Kibow Fortis is it has been shown to help the functioning of our kidney supplement Renadyl, because Fortis is highly lactogenic and bifidogenic, and well, two of the microbes in Renadyl we have a lactobacillus and a bifidobacterium. So it should be very beneficial to promote the growth of probiotics in your gut. Along the way, we've also been recognized with quite a few awards. In 2014, we attended the Bio Conference, International Bio Conference in San Diego. We were the first dietary supplement company to be nominated to participate, and we received the recognition of the Buzz of Bio. We were the most talked about company at that conference. We've only continued to grow since then. Now, in 2018, we started to shift our focus away from the nutraceuticals toward our pharmaceutical development. To put it bluntly, this is because pharmaceuticals have better press than dietary supplements. Most insurance companies, and certainly Medicare and Medicaid, they will not pay for a dietary supplement, no matter how beneficial it may seem to be for a patient. And this makes sense. Pharmaceuticals are held to a high standard. There are regulatory bodies that spend a lot more time looking at pharmaceuticals and making sure they're safe and effective for patients to use. And so and for us to move into pharmaceuticals, we're hoping to significantly reduce cost to consumers, and as a result, have our product become more widely used and help the general health of the population. So that's enough about the company. Let's talk about what you're really here to learn about, the intestinal dialysis and how it works. The kidneys provide a very, they're a lot more complex than I think a lot of people give them credit. They have three major functions of secretory functions. They secrete several compounds that help regulate your system health. They perform a regulatory function that is regulating the healthy levels of different compounds within your body, and the excretory function of filtering out urea, uric acid, creatinine, and other nitrogenous wastes, which can build up within your system. Rather than listening to me yammer on, we have a video here that will just explain very briefly what the product does and what this technology does, I should say, and how it can help with kidneys.
Chronic kidney disease takes many victims, while options for maintaining healthy kidney function are few. Hope may lie in an unexpected place, though. Consider this: how can the colon help maintain healthy kidney function? Enteric toxin reduction technology, an innovative and non-invasive approach to maintaining healthy kidney function, may provide the answer. Enteric toxin reduction technology is a patented process that utilizes probiotics, carefully selected beneficial bacteria, to metabolize circulating uremic toxins when they diffuse out of the blood and into the colon. When a buildup of nitrogenous waste occurs in the bloodstream, uremic toxins diffuse across the intestinal lining into the colon because of the extensive network of blood vessels surrounding it. Following a journey through the upper GI tract, probiotic microbes are released from a protective enteric-coated capsule into the ileocecal region of the colon, and enteric toxin reduction begins. The microbes, which have a high affinity for the toxins, then metabolize them as nutrients. As they metabolize uremic toxins, the microbes begin to multiply, and this in turn allows for greater diffusion of uremic toxins through the bowel. Eventually, the metabolized toxins are carried down through the colon and out of the body.
All right. That was just a brief explanation, but I know that my esteemed colleague Usha here will be able to get much more into the science behind it and explain why this technology works the way it does.
Thank you, Steve. And as Steve already said, the kidney has three main roles to play. It has a secretory function where renin, vitamin D, and erythropoietin are synthesized. It has a regulatory function where it maintains homeostasis of the body by controlling the trace elements and salts like sodium, potassium, and phosphate. And lastly, but one of the main and very important function is its excretory function, where the kidney excretes all the nitrogenous waste that build up in a system due to various metabolic processes. Principally, is urea, uric acid, and creatinine, which are the very well known nitrogenous waste. If we look at the healthy kidney function, what happens is that the blood, which has all these nitrogenous waste, urea, uric acid, and creatinine, that blood is filtered by the kidney. It removes all these toxins and it's thrown out of the system as urine. The clean blood then flows back to the body. That way, we stay healthy. Due to various reasons, the kidney function can get impaired. What happens then is these nitrogenous waste, instead of getting filtered by the kidney, since the kidney is unable to do the filtration activity, all of it stays back in the blood. And the main ones which are well known are urea, uric acid, and creatinine. That creates a condition called as uremia. So, under uremic conditions, these toxins build, and these molecules are very small and they can easily cross through the capillary, through the blood, and enter the large intestine or the colon. There in the colon, there are some amount of bacteria which are pathogens, and these metabolize like urease, and they have those enzymes. So that leads to buildup of pathogenic bacteria in the gut, and these pathogenic bacteria then lead to production of other toxins which are termed as gut generated toxins. These are very small in quantity compared to the nitrogenous waste that you see in the blood, and these are principally the indoxyl sulfate, trimethylamine, and paracrysyl sulfate. And these are not only nephrotoxins, they are also cardiovascular toxins. So it is very important that for a CKD patient, these toxins need to be addressed as well. Along with these gut generated toxins, now there are many new and novel uremic toxins which have been identified, and those are the other ones that you see listed here. If we take a step back and look at the kidney disease, the various stages that are there. Stage 3 is where the kidney disease is recognized by most nephrologists. And this is a stage where about 70% of the kidney function is already lost. So stage 3 and stage 4 is called as a pre-dialysis stage, and about 8 million patients are already affected. Beyond stage 4, as the kidney function worsens, there's only about 15% of residual activity left. And that is termed as stage 5, or the end stage renal disease. This is where then the patient then either has to go for a hemodialysis, a peritoneal dialysis, or a kidney transplant. And there are already 500,000 patients as of now. Though CKD is not given much importance, this is because it is a secondary disease, and the primary causes which lead to subsequent renal failure are mainly diabetes, which affects about 50% of diabetic patients end up with CKD. About 25% of patients who are hypertensive also end up with CKD. Other reasons are HIV, lupus, TB, and many other diseases which then impact the kidney, leading to shutdown of the kidneys. Now, the fact that every disease also has a gut or a colonic component to it came from large number of researchers who have been studying how the gut or the colon plays an important role in health and disease. So as of now, it has been recognized that gut brain, there's a gut component in brain disease. For example, anxiety, stress, all of these have a gut component. Cardiovascular diseases also have a gut component. Trimethylamine, which is a well-known cardiovascular toxin, is generated in the gut. Intestinal bowel disease is the most well-known and well-studied and well-accepted disease, which is known to have a colonic reason behind it. Even liver disease like liver cirrhosis, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease have a gut component associated. And lastly, what we'll be talking today is a chronic kidney disease. Here you see that there is a reduction in the good bacteria, mainly the lactobacillus and the bifidobacteria, which are well-known probiotic bacteria, and there is an increase in the bad or the pathogenic bacteria, mainly the enterobacteria like the E. coli, Salmonella, and Yersinia. The very fact that the gut has a component, there is a gut component associated with CKD came very early on. The studies which were done at Thomas Jefferson University by Steve Dunn and Michael Simonoff and published in 1998 showed that chronic kidney failure patients have a lot of aerobic bacteria. Now the colon is highly anaerobic, there is no oxygen, and that then leads to migration of the bad bacteria from the large intestine to the small intestine, leading to what is known as small bowel bacterial overgrowth. So this is widely prevalent in CKD population even today. And that could be rectified to some extent, and trimethylamines, which are now recognized as cardiovascular toxins, could be reduced using some treatment of Lactobacillus acidophilus. So now we see that in a healthy gut, a healthy human being has good levels of Lactobacillus and bifidobacteria in their colon, and there's a small percentage of the bad bacteria, that is the E. coli, Streptococcus, Clostridia, Proteus, and many more. When CKD happens, the first thing that happens is the buildup of the uremic toxins like urea, uric acid, and creatinine. That uremia leads to growth of bad bacteria. That slowly starts overpopulating in the gut. The good bacteria go down in numbers. The pathogenic bacteria go up in number, and they also produce unwanted toxic metabolites. And this is where our renal product comes in. So Renadyl is the one what we are talking about today. Renadyl has the probiotic bacteria which come from lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, which are specialized strains which not only metabolize the nitrogenous waste but reduce the gut dysbiosis to some extent. So the good bacteria go up, that's why the weight is more, and the bad bacteria slowly go down in numbers. The very fact that gut has a component and a major role to play in health and disease came from the studies of the NIH studies, starting with the Human Genome Project. So when the human genome was studied, it was seen that our human genome has about 10 trillion cells, and that is coded by only 23,000 genes, which is a very small number, because that is the number of genes which you see in the smallest fruit fly, the Drosophila. So how is it possible that we have the same number of genes, but we still can do so many metabolic activities? That is where the NIH started studying what is known as the Human Microbiome Project, which is the study of all the bacteria, the fungus, and all the microbes which reside on us, starting from head to toe, not only outside but also internally. And about 80% of the entire human microbiome is housed in the colon or the gut itself. So the gut has about 80% of the entire microbiome or entire microbes that we have in our system. And when these were studied in detail, they found that the gut microbiome or the microbes, they comprise of about 100 trillion cells, and they code for about 3.3 million genes, which then brings us to a question. So who is housing whom? Are we humans, though we are larger, our cells are much bigger, housing bacteria? Or are the bacteria, which are so tiny, so microscopic, housing us? 3.3 million genes is a humongous number, which means that they are doing something to us. They're helping us in some way, and they may be detrimental also in some way. So it was then realized, and this was coined as a term, as microbiota. And what is a microbiota? It is a metabolic organ which resides in our gut. And it is so exquisitely tuned to every individual that it carries out functions that we humans are unable to do. So the gut microbiome is very, very important. It's important that we take care of our gut to stay healthy and maintain healthy functions. So based on the concept of the gut microbiome and probiotics, Kibow developed the first product for veterinary applications, which is called as Azadil. This product is now being licensed to a French company called Vetoquinol, and since 2006, they are doing all of the marketing for us. Following the success of Azadil, the human product Renadyl was developed. This product has been on sale since 2010, and the product is being sold not only in USA but in many, many countries overseas. In 2018, we went in and approached an Indian company called Center Pharmaceuticals, and they are our Indian collaborators, and they have been selling the product since 2018. Well, Renadyl is a dietary supplement which customers buy from us. However, we validated this dietary supplement like a drug. We started with initial lab studies, what we call as the in vitro. We selected the strains which had the ability to metabolize the nitrogenous waste. Our strains are not just any probiotics that you find in the market. They have been specially selected and they have the ability to metabolize urea, uric acid, and creatinine. So we selected the strains, and then we did what we call as a simulated study, which is a SHINE, which is simulated human intestinal microbial ecosystem, which mimics the entire gastrointestinal tract, starting from the stomach, the small intestine, and the three parts of the colon or the large intestine, the ascending colon, the transverse colon, and the descending colon. This was done in Ghent, Belgium. Following the success, we then came up with a formulation with which we started our animal studies. We first did our studies with 5-6 nephrectomized rats in Thomas Jefferson University, and parallelly following that, we did another 5-6 nephrectomized mini pig studies at Indiana University. Now, this stage of 5-6 nephrectomized is equivalent to the stage 5 kidney disease. We saw that in these animal studies, there was a reduction in the uremic toxins. And based on the success of that, we then went with the phase 1 safety studies for humans. The phase 1 studies were done very much in our own company, where all the employees became part of the study, and we took the animal product, which was designed for the cats and dogs, and we went and did the safety studies. Thereafter, the product was licensed to Vetoquinol for veterinary sales, and many veterinarians then did some clinical trials, and they found positive studies with cats and dogs in Inglewood, California, and those results have been published by Dr. Richard Palmquist. Veterinary sales then started in 2006, following licensing to Vetoquinol. And then after that, the first human study with CKD3 and 4 population was started in 2009 and 10, and the product was launched. Subsequent to this, we also did 2 more clinical trials in humans. So that, like I said, the first study was the CKD3 and 4, which was a multi-site study in Canada, Argentina, Nigeria, and USA. And the results were published in 2010. The dose escalation was done then in CKD3 and 4 patients. This was carried out in Thomas Jefferson University, where we studied a dose from 90 billion per day to 270 billion per day to study the safety of the product, where the patients can ingest larger amounts than what they normally do. The last study we did was in the dialysis patients. These were hemodialysis patients, and we carried out the study in Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn, New York, that's where Dr. Eli Friedman also was one of the PIs, and he has been instrumental in helping us and guiding us through the entire process. The studies of this was published in 2014. So what came out of these three pilot scale studies was that a dose of 270 billion colony forming units, that's how we define bacteria, as colony forming units, not in terms of grams or milligrams. Each colony is equivalent to one bacterial unit. So 270 billion colony forming units per day was well tolerated, and none of the patients observed any adverse effect. Most and all of the patients saw an improved quality of life. This was with respect to the physical activities, their emotional well being, and they also saw some improvement in their pain. The uremic toxin levels, urea, uric acid, and creatinine, went down in the blood. Inflammation also was lower, and that was by monitoring the levels of the inflammatory biomarker, the C-reactive protein. So, as I already told you earlier, there is a gut dysbiosis and gut generated toxins, and the toxin amounts go up as CKD progresses. So, when you move from CKD 3 and 4 towards dialysis, the amounts of cresols and indoles and trimethylamines increase. So in the dialysis population, we saw in our study that indoxyl glucuronide, which is one of the products from indoles and protein putrefaction by the gut bacteria, also went down. So all of the findings that we did from our those three pilot scale studies, and have been published in various journals. And we also did 3 customer biennial surveys, which has been also published. We have, as of now, over several thousand customers who are buying our Renadyl online, and they have been doing it for over the years. So, in a nutshell, what Renadyl does is the Renadyl, as I told, it has 3 probiotic strains of bacteria which have been specially selected in their ability to metabolize urea, uric acid, and creatinine. And the strains are Streptococcus thermophilus strain KB90, Lactobacillus acidophilus strain KB27, and Bifidobacterium longum KB31 strain. So together they reduce creatinine, reduce inflammation as seen by the C-reactive protein, they reduce urea, control the potassium levels, and also reduce serum indoxyl glucuronide and other indoles. They also then help and increase the quality of life, which is measured in various parameters, especially it's called as an SF36, what we used to measure during our clinical trials, where patients reported feeling good, they ate better, they had better appetites, they were more productive, they had less stress, they had better cognitive function, and they were more active. So coming to this, in a nutshell, the way Renadyl acts in terms of modulating the gut microbiome is first, all the 3 strains of Renadyl are well documented in their ability to produce bacteriocins. Bacteriocins are these are very small protein molecules, very similar to antibiotics, and they work by inhibiting the growth of the pathogenic bacteria in the gut. So bacterial pathogens in the gut go down in numbers. Since the pathogenic bacteria produce inflammation, there is a modulation of inflammation goes down. Secondly, these bacteria have been selected based on their ability to metabolize urea, uric acid, and creatinine, which leads to urea, and that further leads to inflammation. So when the nitrogenous waste level go down in the blood, there is also a modulation of inflammation. Based on the success of Renadyl, the way it works, and our clinical trials, we have been able to get an FDA approved IND to carry out large scale clinical trials in stage 3, 4, and dialysis patient. Dr. Ante will now walk you through how we have been doing this.
Thank you, Risha. As you can see, that Kibow has been involved in research and development right from its inception. Because if you look at the development of all products, it's based on data that we gathered from the various clinical studies, both animal and human studies. And based on the data we have so far, especially from chronic kidney disease and dialysis, Kibow, because it's focused on research and development, as part of their clinical development program, applied for an FDA IND, which was approved. And based on that approval, we started the CKD stage 4 patient clinical trials using the carefully selected strains that Kibow has developed over the years. Currently, we have 2 clinical trials that is ongoing, but the one that we have almost halfway gone is the randomized control clinical trial in chronic kidney disease patient. And this trial is a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled. It's a phase 2B clinical trial in patients who have stage 4 CKD, and usually stage 4 CKD are CKD that is progressive. And so it involves 630 patients, now currently at about 25 sites in the United States. We are moving to other sites outside the US in India and Argentina shortly. And this is a 6-month trial, which will be followed by an open label rollover extension for another 6 months. So in effect, the trial will go on for about 12 months. And what are we looking at? The endpoint, the primary endpoint is looking at adverse events in less than 10%, and as well as looking at the mean reduction in the decline of eGFR by 40%. And this is a threshold that is being set by FDA and National Kidney Foundation in assessing intervention in chronic kidney disease progression in any of the products. And we're also looking at a whole range of secondary and tertiary endpoints as well. Because this is a new product, is the first of its kind that's approved for CKD trial. So we are looking at a lot of parameters as well. So apart from safety and endpoints and other parameters, which of course will inform us of going ahead with a larger phase 3 trial. So far, we have recruited about 250, enrolled 250 patients, and hopefully by the second quarter of 2023, we should be able to analyze the data of this randomized control. Also, we are also about to start the hemodialysis trial using the same IND. This is a unique open label trial, and we are doing it in collaboration with about 6 other sites, some funding and sponsorship from NIH. So it's involved 150 patients who are on chronic dialysis, hemodialysis, and the trial design consists very unique in that it's an open label. We have a baseline run-in of about 3 months, then treatment phase will follow for another 3 months, then there will be washout. And the second treatment phase will involve addition of a prebiotic. And so we have a probiotic treatment in the treatment phase, and then a probiotic and a prebiotic, which is a symbiotic combination formulation in the second phase. And the primary endpoint we are looking at is, apart from safety, we are also looking at how we can reduce these cardiorenal toxins, because this is a problem in patients who are dialyzing. As we all know, dialysis, in the most efficient dialysis, can only remove about 30% of these uremic toxins. And these are the toxins that have been associated with cardiovascular complications, because most of the morbidity and mortality from dialysis have now been attributed to these cardiorenal toxins. And we are looking at a treatment effect of reducing at least 50% from baseline to the end of treatment. We're also looking at other secondary and tertiary endpoints as well. And this involves anti-inflammatory as well as a lot of cytokines, which at the end will come with it and see how this has effect on those who are undergoing dialysis. And the whole aim of all these trials and intervention is how to slow the progression of CKD. And the whole aim is to re-establish the equilibrium, because if you look at the science behind this biosis association with chronic kidney disease, what the problem is the restoring the excretory, regulatory, and as well as the excretory function of the kidney, of the diseased kidney. And that is why this intervention is very important. And if you intervene, so the enteric uremic toxins that are being generated during this CKD progression will be alleviated. And hopefully then there will be improvement in the quality of life, improvement in symptoms, as well as also improvement in renal function. So in Kibow, what are we really doing? Why we are focusing on chronic kidney disease? Because we want to give hope. Because if you look at, people ask, why do you choose Kibow as the name of your company? Well, Kibow can mean in different things in different languages, but one of them in Japanese, we found out that Kibow means hope. And of course, we all know hope never abandons anyone. It's you that abandon hope. And our whole aim here in Kibow is to bring hope to patients worldwide and to bring a bright light at the end of the tunnel for patients with chronic kidney disease and end-stage kidney disease. And that is what we are trying to do, and that is what we are trying to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve, Usha, and Dr. Antiye for speaking with us today. We have a few questions that our listeners sent in, and I will read each one out loud, and if you can decide amongst yourselves who is the best to respond to it, that would be great. First question here is Renadyl suitable for any stage of CKD as well as dialysis patients and kidney transplant recipients? And also, can you touch on who should not be using these supplements? Thank you.
You can turn the question around again and say, do we have this imbalance in patients at all stages of CKD? Yes. So if you have this biosis or the imbalance of in the change in gut microbiome in CKD stages, then it means it's suitable for everybody with all stages of CKD. And also this includes dialysis, because we have enough data, we have a lot of data, a lot of publications out there that shows the beneficial effects of this intervention with probiotics and prebiotic formulations in all stages of CKD. It improves quality of life, it improves the renal function, reduces the immunological as well as the inflammatory conditions that you see associated with CKD. And in transplant patients, most especially, it has been found out that the few data that we have had so far show that reduces the rejection episode, infection episodes. And of course, we also know that in people with transplant, because of the immunosuppressants that they are usually on, we see a lot of these biopsies in them in the early stages. And so intervention in them helps a lot in most of these patients. So in a nutshell, all spectrum of CKD can benefit from probiotics. And of course, its rating is very safe, and which we have already illustrated. Now, who will not take? Well, usually we advise that those who are immunocompromised should try to avoid it. Those with a form of focus of infection should try to avoid it. And also those on some forms of anticoagulation. And of course, also those with some vascular or prosthetic, vascular stents and other things. The whole idea is because probiotics is a live microorganisms, and sometimes they can be translocation of most of these bacteria to other parts of the body. So we try to advise that any of those who have such risk should try to avoid it.
Now, is this available over the counter by prescription? Is it only available in the United States, or is it available in other countries as well?
It's not on prescription, especially for the Renadyl from Kibow is not on prescription, and that is the reason behind the clinical trial, that if we get the data and we're able to meet our primary endpoints, we should be able to file for what we call a BLA, and then there is an approval by FDA. It can be marketed as a prescription drug. I can garner reimbursement, and insurance coverage can come in. And of course, it's more available to most people. So, and it's available, as of now, it's available over the counter for now, and also on online sales, also in US and other parts of the world.
Yeah, although I think for other parts of the world, in some places, it's easier to find or it'll be cheaper if you find a supplier in your country. I know in India we are partnered with Centaur, and so it's easy, it's cheaper to get through them. We have a couple suppliers in the Philippines. We have some suppliers in Mexico, and so it's it may be most convenient, I think, to order directly from our website, but I think for many people in other countries, it may be cheaper to get it from a supplier who brings it in bulk from us.
And you mentioned clinical trials. Are you still enrolling for your trial? And if so, where can individuals go for more information to determine if they are eligible to participate?
Yeah, the trial is still ongoing. We are still recruiting patients. If we go to our website, the information about the trial is there. How you can, get in touch with us, or the various sites, is also there. But if you have any problem, go on the Kibow website, go to the section of the clinical trial, and every information you need is there. Just fill in and then let us know, and then we can link you up with any of the clinical trial sites. There are about 25 clinical trial sites in the United States, and we see the one that is very close to you, and you can link you up with them. And then they can assess you for eligibility.
Great, thank you so much. We'll be sure to include that link in an email communication that we send out after this webinar. So thank you so much again to each of you for speaking and presenting on this Pro and Prebiotic supplement. And once again, thank you so much to Kibow Biotech for sponsoring today's webinar. I'd like to close the webinar here with just a few resources from AAKP. If you are not already a member of AAKP, we encourage you to join. We offer free membership to patients and family members, as well as living kidney donors. And you can join online at aakp.org or by phone. And in order to receive all the benefits of membership, please be sure to include your email address when signing up. As an AAKP member, you will be notified by email when opportunities arise where your opinions and experiences are needed to help inform innovation, advance care, and make a meaningful impact to improve lives. We encourage you to respond to our flash surveys and other engagement opportunities to help us elevate the patient voice and change the status quo for kidney disease care. You can also select to receive any of our 5 different electronic newsletters and subscribe to our print magazine, AAKP Renal Life. We also invite you to follow us on our blog and social media for all the latest news and announcements. AAKP is dedicated to helping patients understand their condition and take control of their health care. We are proud to offer a variety of resources for both patients and caregivers. We also offer numerous kidney-friendly recipes with details on the nutritional content and which stage of kidney disease these recipes are good for. By visiting our website and clicking on the store button at the top of the homepage, you can find a variety of educational brochures and online tools to order or download. And you can also order materials over the phone. We'd again like to thank today's speakers, Dr. Emmanuel Antiyi, Steve Drehobel, and Usha Vyas for their time today. And thank you to Kibow Biotech for sponsoring this AAKP Healthline Innovator webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. Be informed and stay safe.